A little girl begged the biker. With just a whisper, she changed his deadly path forever. A trap was waiting, his own brothers betrayed him, and her silence held a power no one understood. A story of brutal loyalty, shocking sacrifice, and the family you find. If you're new here, subscribe and comment your location. Now let's begin. The rain had stopped, leaving the world outside the diner window slick and shining under the neon sign. Inside, the air smelled of old coffee and grease. Havoc sat in a corner booth, his back to the wall, a half-eaten plate of eggs going cold. He wasn't there for the food. He was there to confirm a location. The witness, a weaselly little man named Paul who'd skimmed from the wrong family, was hiding in a motel 2 blocks over. The order had come down clean. Make it quiet, make it final. In the next booth, a little girl with serious brown eyes was drawing quietly on a placemat. Her mother, a tired-looking woman named Elena, was sipping tea, her eyes glancing nervously at the giant in the leather cut covered in patches. Havoc ignored them. He focused on the text from his president, James, Motel 6, Room 12, do it by 10 p.m. He checked his watch, 9:15 p.m., time to move. He threw a 20 on the table, the chains on his boots clinking as he stood. His motorcycle, a brutal black Harley, was parked right outside the window. As he turned to leave, he felt a small, insistent tug on the back of his cut. He looked down. The little girl from the next booth was standing there, her tiny fist clutching the worn leather of his vest. Her eyes were wide, not with fear, but with a desperate urgency. Her mother gasped, "Ilara, no honey, let the man go." But Ilara didn't let go. She looked straight up at Havoc, a man whose name was whispered in fears, a man who looked like a storm given shape. And she spoke. Her voice was a tiny, rusty thing, unused and fragile. "Please," she whispered, "don't leave yet." Everything stopped. Elena's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. She hasn't spoken in a year," she breathed. Havoc stared. The words weren't special, but the fact they came from her, directed at him, felt like a lightning strike. It was wrong. All of it was wrong. His mission, the text, this child speaking to him. He hesitated. A lifetime of following orders warred with a gut-deep animal instinct. That instinct won. He sat back down, not fully, just on the edge of the booth, his eyes locked on the girl. "Okay, kid," he said, his voice gravelly. "Okay." Ilara didn't smile. She just pointed a small finger at his empty plate, as if he should stay and finish. He was about to say something, anything, when the world outside exploded. The sound was a deafening crump boom. The diner windows blew inward in a shower of glittering glass. The concussion wave threw people from their stools. Havoc moved on pure instinct, lunging across the booth, wrapping his massive body around Ilara and her mother, pulling them to the floor and covering them with his back as debris rained down. Silence, then screaming. The acrid smell of gasoline and burnt plastic filled the air. Smoke billowed past the shattered windows. Havoc slowly rose, his body shielding the trembling woman and her silent child. He looked out at the parking lot. Where his motorcycle had been was now a fiery crater. Twisted metal burned. A car, which had been idling across the street, was now a mangled wreck, a suicide bomber. It hadn't been meant for Paul, it had been a trap. For him. The text, the hit, it was all bait. 10 more seconds, and he would have been a red stain on the asphalt. He turned back to Ilara. She was clutching her mother, but her eyes were on him, clear and knowing. In that moment, Havoc, the nomadic enforcer, the man who trusted nothing but his bike and his club, believed in magic. This child was either a lucky charm or an oracle, and she was now his. "We are leaving," he said to Elena, his voice leaving no room for argument. "Now." "Who are you? What's happening?" Elena cried, clutching Ilara. "The people who did that," Havoc said, nodding to the fire, "think they just got me. When they find out they didn't, they'll come looking. You and your girl are witnesses. You're coming with me." He didn't wait for permission. He ushered them through the chaotic diner, out the back door into the alley, his mind racing. He needed wheels, and he needed to find Paul. The weasel was the key. He knew why Havoc was a target. He hotwired an old, beat-up pickup truck from behind a nearby grocery store. Elena and Ilara climbed in, Ilara still clutching her crayon drawing. Havoc drove, not out of town, but deeper into the gritty streets. He needed to get to Paul before the rival crew, or his own people did. "What's your name?" Elena whispered from the passenger seat. "Havoc. Is that a real name?" "It's the one that matters." They reached the rundown Motel 6. Havoc told them to stay down. He crept to room 12, his gun drawn. The door was ajar. He pushed it open slowly. Paul was inside, tied to a chair, very much alive but with a fresh black eye. Standing over him was a woman. She was tall, with sharp eyes and dark hair pulled into a messy bun. She held a knife, not at Paul but ready. She wore a leather jacket but not a club cut. Havoc knew her, Mercy. A freelance fixer, sometimes used by the family for delicate work. "Mercy," Havoc growled, gun leveled. "Took you long enough, Havoc," she said, not lowering the knife. "I heard the boom, figured you were toast. Guess the rumors about you are true." "What rumors?" "That you're too mean for hell to take." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "I got a tip this little rat was being used as cheese in a trap. I came to get the truth. Seems someone in your club's hierarchy wants you retired, permanently." Havoc's blood ran cold. A setup from within. Who? Mercy gestured to Paul with her knife. "He doesn't know a name, just that the order came through your president, James, but the payment came from a different account, a rival account, the Scar Vipers." The Scar Vipers were a brutal, upstart crew trying to muscle in on mafia-linked territory. "So James is either stupid or dirty," Havoc said, his voice low. James was his brother not by blood but by oath, the betrayal strung, sharp and deep. "Or being played," Mercy offered. She looked past Havoc out the door. "You bring friends." Havoc hesitated. "Civilians, the bomb, a kid warned me." Mercy raised an eyebrow. "A kid? It's complicated." Just then, headlights swept the room. A car pulled into the motel lot fast. Two men got out, their jackets bearing the fanged serpent patch of the Scar Vipers. They were looking for Paul or for confirmation of Havoc's death. "Time up," Mercy said. She cut Paul's bonds. "You're coming with us, maggot. You're the only proof we have." Havoc made a decision. He ran back to the truck, yanked open the door. "Scoot over," he told Elena. He got in, Mercy and a terrified Paul piling into the cramped back seat with Ilara. Havoc gunned the engine, peeling out of the lot as the Vipers shouted, their guns popping off ineffective shots in the night. They drove in tense silence to a safe house Havoc knew, a dusty, forgotten cabin owned by the club deep in the woods. Once inside, Havoc lit a lantern. The place was sparse, a couch, a table, 2 bunks. Ilara immediately went to a corner and started drawing on the floor with a piece of charcoal she found. Paul cowered. Mercy started a pot of coffee on a camp stove, acting like this was just another Tuesday. Elena finally broke. "Why are we here? I have to get Ilara home." "Your home is the first place they'll look," Havoc said, his tone final. "You're safe here, for now." "Safe with you," Elena laughed, a hysterical edge to it. "You're a criminal. My daughter hasn't spoken in a year, and the first thing she does is save a biker's life. Why?" Havoc looked at Ilara. He walked over and crouched down, his large frame making him look awkward. "Hey, kid." She looked up. "Why'd you say it? Don't leave yet." Ilara studied him for a long moment. Then she pointed at her drawing. It was a crude but clear picture, a man on a motorcycle, a big black bike. Next to it, a red car with a bright yellow boom coming from it. And above the man on the bike, a little girl with a speech bubble that had a single, wobbly word: stop. Havoc's breath caught. She hadn't just felt a fear, she had seen it. He looked back at Elena. "Trauma, you said." Elena's defiance crumpled. "A car accident, last year. Her father, he didn't make it. She was in the back seat. She hasn't spoken since, until tonight." Mercy whistled softly. "So she's got a radar for death on wheels. Handy." Havoc stood. "We keep her close, and we use what we know." He turned to Paul, who flinched. "The money trail, we need to follow it. If James is dirty, the whole club is in danger. If he's being set up, we need to clear his name and gut the Vipers." Mercy nodded. "I have a contact in the bank, a guy named David. He's persuadable. We can get the account details, see who really sent the payment." The plan formed in the dim light. Mercy would go to the city to pressure David. Havoc would stay and guard the assets, Paul, Elena, and Ilara. It was a long night. Ilara fell asleep on the musty couch. Elena eventually slept beside her. Paul snored in a bunk. Havoc sat at the table, cleaning his gun, watching the door. Mercy left at dawn. Before she went, she handed Havoc a satellite phone. "Don't call your club, not yet." Hours passed. Havoc tried to stay professional, but Ilara kept drawing. She brought him pictures. A picture of a man with a snake on his jacket, a viper. A picture of Mercy talking to a stick-figure man with dollar signs, David, the banker. And once, a picture of Havoc himself, standing next to a tall stick-figure woman, Mercy, with a little heart floating between them. Havoc crumpled that one up quickly, feeling a strange heat on his neck. Elena watched him. "You're not what I expected," she said quietly as Ilara napped. "What did you expect?" "A monster." "I am," he said simply, "just not yours." There was a charged silence. He looked at her, really looked. The tiredness around her eyes, the strength in the set of her jaw. She was beautiful in a worn-out way. He shook his head, breaking the moment. This was not the time. The satellite phone rang in the afternoon. It was Mercy, her voice tense. "I got it. The payment originated from an account owned by a shell corporation. It's a front, but David traced a link. It's not James, it's his lieutenant, Mark." Havoc's fist clenched. Mark, ambitious, cold, it made sense. He was close enough to James to manipulate orders to set up the hit. He must have cut a deal with the Scar Vipers, take out Havoc, create chaos, and Mark would take over the club, giving the Vipers a share of the territory. "James is clean, but he's in the dark," Mercy said. "You need to warn him, but if you call the club line, Mark will hear." "We need to get to him in person," Havoc said. "The clubhouse is 2 hours away. It'll be fortified." "There's a meet tonight," Mercy said, "at the warehouse by the docks. James will be there with Mark and a few others. It's the only place you might get to him without walking into a wall of bullets." Havoc made his decision. They would all go. Leaving them here was too risky. They piled back into the stolen truck, a tense caravan of the damned. As they drove towards the city, Ilara, sitting between Havoc and Elena, reached out and put her small hand on Havoc's scarred knuckle on the gear shift. He glanced down. She didn't look at him, just kept her hand there, a tiny, warm weight. A silent message, "Be careful." The warehouse district was a maze of shadows and fog. Havoc parked the truck a block away. He turned to Elena. "Stay here, lock the doors. If I'm not back in 1 hour, take this." He handed her a wad of cash and the keys to a bus station locker where he kept a clean escape package. "Get on a bus and go as far as this will take you." Elena's eyes were wide with fear. "Havoc." "It's Daniel," he said, the name foreign on his tongue. "My name is Daniel." He got out before he could see her reaction. Mercy was already a shadow moving ahead. Paul they left tied up in the truck bed, promising him freedom if they lived. The warehouse had a side door. Havoc picked the lock with ease. Inside it was cavernous, stacked with crates. Voices echoed near the center. He saw James, his president, a big bear of a man, and next to him, Mark, slick and smiling. 2 other club members were there. Havoc stepped into the pool of light. Everyone froze. Guns were drawn in an instant. "Havoc," James boomed, confusion on his face. "What the hell? We heard you were dead." "That was the plan," Havoc said, his eyes locked on Mark. Mark's smile had vanished, his hand inching towards his gun. "Your lieutenant's plan. He's taking payments from the Scar Vipers. He set me up to die tonight to weaken you. The hit on Paul was fake." James turned slowly to Mark. "Is this true?" Mark laughed, a nervous sound. "He's crazy. He's trying to save his own skin after botching the job." But Havoc saw the tell, the slight twitch in Mark's jaw. So did James, who knew his men. "Show me proof," James said, his voice dangerously low. This was the moment. Havoc hoped Mercy was in position. He gave a slight nod towards the rafters. Mercy's voice, amplified by the warehouse echo, rang out. "The proof is in account number 447788891, routed through Grand Cayman, Mark. We have the bank manager's sworn affidavit." Mark snapped. He pulled his gun, but not on James or Havoc. He aimed for the rafters where Mercy's voice had come from. Bang, bang. That was his mistake. James moved faster than a man his size should, tackling Mark. Havoc rushed forward, disarming him. The other two club members, loyal to James, helped subdue the traitor. It was over quickly. Mark, bleeding from a split lip, spat at Havoc's feet. "You're a dead man walking, Havoc. The Vipers are already on their way. They know about the girl. They want her too. A little oracle would be useful, don't you think?" Ice filled Havoc's veins. He looked at James. "Go," James said, understanding immediately. "Get your people clear. We'll handle this trash and fortify. The club is yours, brother, always was." Havoc didn't need telling twice. He ran, Mercy dropping from the rafters to join him. They sprinted back to the truck. As they rounded the corner, they saw it. The truck's doors were open. Elena and Ilara were gone. Panic, cold, and absolute seized Havoc. Then he saw the drawing left on the driver's seat. It was fresh. A picture of a big van, a snake on the side, and an arrow pointing to a building that looked like a church with a broken cross, the old chapel on the edge of the district. "She's leading us," Mercy said. She knew they'd come. They ran. The old chapel was dark, its windows boarded. A black van with a crude serpent painted on the side was parked outside. Two Vipers stood guard. Havoc and Mercy took them down with silent, brutal efficiency. They slipped inside. The main hall was empty, dusty pews outlined in the moonlight from a hole in the roof. Voices came from a side room, the old office. "Just a kid, boss. She won't talk." "She doesn't need to talk. We'll just keep her. She's a gold mine." Havoc kicked the door in. There were three Vipers inside. Elena was shoved in a corner, her face bruised. Ilara stood in front of her mother, small and defiant, holding a rusty nail like a sword. The head Viper, a brute with a shaved head, held a knife. The fight was short and vicious. Havoc was a force of nature, his rage focused. Mercy covered his back. In 30 seconds, two Vipers were down. The head Viper grabbed Ilara, holding the knife to her throat. "Back off, or I..." Ilara didn't scream. She just looked at Havoc, her eyes calm. Then she stomped hard on the Viper's instep. He howled, his grip loosening for a split second. That was all Havoc needed. He lunged, grabbing the man's knife hand and twisting until the bones snapped. The knife clattered to the floor. Havoc's fist connected with the man's jaw, and he went down, unconscious. Silence. Havoc knelt, pulling Ilara into a fierce, one-armed hug. She buried her face in his leather cut. Elena stumbled over, wrapping her arms around both of them, sobbing in relief. Mercy watched the door, a soft, unreadable look on her face. Later, at a new, more secure safe house, James arrived. He clapped Havoc on the shoulder. "The club is secure. Mark is singing like a bird to save his skin. The Vipers are scattering. You did good, Daniel." Havoc just nodded, watching Ilara. She was drawing again. This picture was different. A house. A little girl, a woman, and a big man on a motorcycle, but the motorcycle was parked, and the man was standing with them, holding their hands. She handed it to Havoc. He looked at it, then at Elena. Elena smiled, a real, warm smile for the first time. "The Empire doesn't give up its own," James said quietly, "but sometimes its own finds something more to guard. Take all the time you need." James and Mercy left, talking about cleaning up the city. Havoc, Elena, and Ilara were alone. The rising sun painted the room in gold and pink. "What now?" Elena asked. Havoc looked at the drawing, then at the two people who had, against all odds, become his reason. The Empire was still there. He was still Havoc, but maybe, just maybe, he could also be Daniel. "Now," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "we see what happens next." Ilara walked over and took his hand. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. The silence in the safe house was comfortable now, not tense. Ilara's drawing lay on the table between them like a promise. A house, a family, a parked motorcycle. It was a future Havoc, a man who'd only known roads and violence, had never let himself imagine. Elena made tea on the small stove. Her hands were steady. "Daniel," she said, testing the name. It still felt strange to hear it. "What does all the time you need actually mean?" He ran a hand over his buzzed hair. It means I'm not expected back at the clubhouse tomorrow. It means I have leave to figure this out, to make sure you're safe for good." And after that, she brought him a chipped mug. Their fingers brushed. A simple touch, but it sent a current through him, warm and unsettling. "After that depends on who's still looking for us." Mark talked, but the Scar Vipers aren't a single head. Cut one off, two more might get angry. He looked at Ilara, who was quietly coloring on the floor with a new pack of crayons Mercy had left. "She's a target now. Her ability, word will get out." "It's not an ability," Elena said softly, sitting across from him. "It's trauma. She sees danger because she lived through the worst kind. She saw her father die. Now her brain warns her, like of a smoke alarm that's too sensitive." "That smoke alarm saved my life," Havoc said. "It makes her valuable to the wrong people." "So what's the plan?" Elena's gaze was direct. The scared woman from the diner was gone, replaced by a mother in survival mode. "We disappear for a while, somewhere the club knows but no one else does. A cabin up north by a lake. It's remote, owned by a friend of a friend. We stay there, let things cool down. I teach you both some basics, how to be aware, how to get away." "And you," she asked, "you'll just live in a cabin? You don't seem the type." He almost smiled. "Never tried it, might be terrible at it." A small voice spoke from the floor. "You'll be good." They both turned. Ilara wasn't looking at them, focused on coloring a blue sky, but she'd spoken. Again, Havoc felt a weird lump in his throat. The drive north took 8 hours. They switched vehicles twice, using methods Havoc knew to get a clean, untraceable SUV. Ilara slept most of the way, curled under a blanket. Elena watched the world change from city to suburb to forest. "It's beautiful," she murmured as pine trees thickened around them. "It's isolated," Havoc corrected, but his tone wasn't harsh. "No neighbors for 5 miles, satellite phone for emergencies, generator, well water, wood stove." The cabin was exactly as described, rustic, sturdy, and hidden at the end of a dirt road that was more of a suggestion. A small, frozen lake glittered behind it. Inside, it was one big room with a loft, dusty but solid. The first few days were a series of adjustments. Havoc, used to action and noise, found the quiet deafening. He chopped wood with a furious energy that made Elena laugh. She took over the small kitchen, making simple meals. Ilara explored, her silence returning, but it was a calm quiet now, not a trapped one. Havoc started his lessons. They were practical, not scary. "See how the birds just stopped singing?" he'd say to Ilara, crouching next to her on the porch. "That means something big is moving out there. A person, a bear, it's a signal. Listen to the signals." He showed Elena how to check the perimeter of the cabin, what tracks to look for. He taught her how to hold his gun, how to aim, how to respect it. Their hands would linger during the lessons, his large, scarred hands covering hers on the weapon, adjusting her stance. The air would grow thick, charged with something unspoken. He'd step back quickly, clearing his throat. One evening, a week in, a storm rolled in. The wind howled, shaking the windows. The generator flickered and died, plunging them into darkness lit only by the fireplace. Ilara, startled by the noise, began to cry silently, trembling. Elena tried to soothe her, but the child was locked in a memory of another violent noise, another crash. Havoc watched for a moment, feeling useless. Then he did something he hadn't done since he was a boy. He sat on the floor by the fire and started to whittle a piece of wood from the kindling pile, his knife moving in the firelight. The steady, rhythmic shush-shush of the blade against wood was a new sound. Calm, intentional. Ilara's sobs slowed. She watched his hands. He didn't look at her, just focused on the wood. Slowly, she wiggled out of her mother's arms and sat on the floor near him, watching. After a long time, he held out the rough shape. It was a lopsided dog. "Guardian," he grunted. Ilara took it. She held it tight. Then she leaned just slightly until her small shoulder was touching his massive arm. She stayed there until she fell asleep. Havoc didn't move a muscle, afraid to break the spell. Elena's eyes met his over their daughter's head. The gratitude in them was so raw it stole his breath. Something shifted in the room, warmer than the fire. Later, with Ilara asleep in the loft, they sat on the old couch. The storm raged outside. "Thank you," Elena said quietly, for all of this." "Don't thank me," he said, staring into the flames. "This is my fault. My world invaded yours." "Your world saved us too," she said. "From that bomb, from those men." She paused. "Why did you tell me your name at the warehouse?" He was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. "Because when you thought I might die," he said, the words dragged from a deep place, "I wanted someone to know the man wasn't just the monster." She moved closer on the couch, not touching him but near. The space between them felt alive. "You're not a monster, Daniel." He finally looked at her. The firelight played on her face, in her hair. She was so beautiful it hurt. He saw no fear in her eyes now, just curiosity and something else. Something that made his heart pound against his ribs like it was trying to escape. He leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. He kissed her. It was gentle at first, a question. Her answer was a soft sigh as she kissed him back, her hand coming up to rest on his stubbled jaw. The kiss deepened, filled with weeks of charged glances and unspoken tension. It was hungry but tender, a claiming and a surrender all at once. He pulled back, his breath ragged. "Elena." "SHHH," she whispered, her fingers tracing the line of his lip. She kissed him again, and this time there was no hesitation. They didn't go far that night. The couch was too small, the moment too new, but they held each other, wrapped in a blanket, listening to the storm fade. It was enough. It was everything. Life settled into a new rhythm. Mornings were for lessons and chores. Afternoons, Ilara would draw, and Havoc would work on the cabin, fixing shutters, clearing brush. Evenings were by the fire. The charged moments between him and Elena became more frequent, more intense. Stolen kisses by the woodpile, lingering touches while washing dishes. It was a slow, sweet burn. One afternoon, Havoc was under the SUV, checking something. Ilara sat nearby on a stump, drawing. Elena came out with a sandwich for him. She knelt to hand it under the vehicle. "Lunch break, mechanic," she said, smiling. He slid out, grease on his face. He took the sandwich, but his eyes were on her. He pulled her down for a quick, hard kiss. She laughed against his mouth. "You're all dirty." "You love it," he murmured, a playful glint in his eye she'd never seen before. "Maybe I do," she whispered back, her breath hot on his ear. From her stump, Ilara made a soft, amused sound. They broke apart, looking over. Ilara was smiling a little, shaking her head as if to say silly adults, before going back to her drawing. They both burst out laughing, the sound free and easy in the clean forest air. It felt for the first time like a life, not a hiding, a life. The satellite phone rang 1 week later, breaking the peace. It was James. His voice was serious. "Daniel, the Vipers are finished as an organization. We broke them. But there's chatter from a different group, not local. They're interested in the Seer Girl rumor, mercenary types, information brokers. It's gone beyond the city." Havoc's gut tightened. He looked at Elena teaching Ilara how to identify edible berries at the tree line. "How specific is the chatter?" "Not specific yet. No names, no location, but they know it's a little girl connected to a club enforcer. They're digging. You need to be ready. You can't stay off-grid forever." Havoc knew he was right. This cabin was a pause, not an end. "What's your advice, James?" "The club's empire is solid. We can protect our own, but we're not invisible. You have 3 choices. 1, you all come back into the fold. We hide you in plain sight, give you new identities within the club's circle. It's protection, but it's still the life. 2, I have a contact in the US. Marshals, we cut a deal, give them something on a bigger fish. You all go into witness protection, truly gone, but you give up everything, including me." "And 3, Havoc asked, already knowing he'd hate it. 3, James said heavily, you run on your own. No club, no system, just you, them, and your wits. It's the hardest path, lonely, constant looking over your shoulder." Havoc watched Elena laugh as Ilara proudly showed her a berry. "I'll think about it." "Think fast, brother. Autumn's coming. That lake will freeze and your road will be snowed in. You'll be trapped there." He hung up, Havoc stood for a long time, the weight of the future pressing down. He had found something precious, and now he had to choose how to guard it. The Empire's way, the government's way, or the outlaw's way. That night, after Ilara was asleep, he told Elena everything. He didn't sugarcoat it. The new threat, the three choices. She listened, her face pale but determined in the firelight. "I won't go back to that life for her," she said, meaning the club life. "And I don't trust a system that can leak, but running forever." She looked at him. "What do you want, Daniel?" "Not Havoc, Daniel." He took her hands. They felt small and strong in his. "I want you safe. I want her to have a childhood. I want to wake up and see you both without checking the perimeter first." "So we run," she said, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Together." He nodded, pulling her into his arms. "Together, but first we need resources, real ones, and to do that I need to do one last job for the club. A clean, high-paid job. James has one. A debt collection from a slippery financier who thinks he's above the family's rules. It's in the city, in and out in 48 hours. The money would set us up for a long time." Fear flashed in her eyes. "You can't go back there. It's a trap. It feels like a trap." "James will have my back. And Mercy, it's the only way to get the cash we need without a trace. Government money has strings. This will be clean." She was silent for a long time, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "If you go," she said finally, "we go with you. We don't separate again. Ilara, she's our early warning system. We stick together." The idea was terrifying, taking them into the city near danger, but the thought of leaving them here, unprotected while he was gone, was worse. And Elena was right. Ilara's intuition was their best defense. "Okay," he breathed, kissing her hair. "Together." The next morning, he called James back. "I'll do the job, but Elena and the girl come with me. We stay at the club's secure apartment downtown. You provide perimeter security. The moment the job is done, we get the payment in untraceable assets, and we vanish. You never see us again." James was quiet. "That's a big ask, brother, bringing civilians into ops." "They're not civilians," Havoc said, his voice firm. "They're my family. It's non-negotiable." A sigh. "All right. The job is in 3 days. I'll send Mercy to prep you." The following days were a flurry of quiet preparation. Havoc went over maps of the financier's penthouse office with Mercy, who arrived with supplies and a sharp look for Elena that slowly softened into respect. Ilara drew constantly. Her pictures changed. They showed cityscapes, tall buildings, a man Havoc walking into a building that looked like a shiny tooth. Then a worrying one, the same building, but with little red dots like eyes in the windows around it. "She's sensing ambush points," Mercy noted, peering at the drawing. "The eyes are likely security or hostiles she's picking up on. This kid is a tactical genius." The night before they were to leave for the city, Havoc sat with Ilara. "Are you scared?" he asked her. She shook her head no. Then she pointed to him and to her mother and to herself. She made a circle with her fingers. "Together." He hugged her tight. "Yeah, kid, together." They drove to the city at dawn. The club's safe apartment was in a bland, mid-rise building, luxurious in a cold way. It had a view of the very skyscraper where the job would go down. James was there, looking older. He embraced Havoc. "The financier, David Chen, will be in his office until 8 p.m. tonight. He has 2 bodyguards. Clean, quiet persuasion is the goal. He owes the family $2 million. We want it in crypto, transferred on the spot. Here's the wallet key." He handed Havoc a slip of paper. "Mercy will be your eye in the sky. I'll have men on the street. You'll be in and out in 20 minutes. Havoc nodded. He turned to Elena. "You watch from here. If Ilara draws anything new, you call Mercy on this phone immediately." He gave her a secure cell. Elena kissed him hard and quick. "Come back to us." He kissed Ilara on the top of her head. Then he left with Mercy. From the apartment window, Elena and Ilara watched them drive away. Ilara immediately went to the table and started to draw. Elena's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Her blood ran cold. It read, "A trade. The girl for your lives. Think about it. You have until tonight." She deleted it instantly, her heart hammering. They were found. The threat was here. She had to warn Daniel, but if she called now, she could distract him, get him killed in the operation. She had to wait. She looked at Alara's new drawing. It was the apartment, and at the door, a shadow with a key. Elena grabbed the secure phone, her fingers icy. She called Mercy, voice a frantic whisper. "They're here, they have a key." Ilara drew it. In the financier's lobby, Havoc heard Mercy's hissed update in his earpiece. His mission shattered. "Abort," he growled to Mercy. "The money's dust. My family is everything." He sprinted from the building, a man possessed, leaving the Empire's business behind forever. The only job that mattered now was waiting in a quiet apartment, a mother, a daughter, and a future he'd fight 1,000 wars to protect. Thank you for riding along on this wild journey. Would you have hesitated like Havoc, or would you have left the diner? Subscribe and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Are you a city rider or a quiet town dreamer? Your support fuels our next tale.